Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 8th of November. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is a weekly video where I take your requests and analyse the share price charts for you. This week I'm looking at NAB, Incitec Pivot, Virgin Airlines, Zaira Resources and AMI. So if you have a request, email it through. Share this video on social media, and just bear in mind any advice is general only. So looking at NAB, over the last year we can see it's shed a bit of value. Positive last couple of weeks. I think we're going to get a bit more of a bounce here. Initial resistance I'm looking at seems to have respected this. There seems to be a bit of trend line resistance here, so that takes us up to about 26.50. Otherwise, the bullish case is that this level here looks like it'll be strong resistance, which is around 27.30. And if I was to measure the retracement since the last major peak, it happens to be right on the 61.8% retracement. So I'm guessing around 26.50 is where we'll see it turn. Otherwise, the most bullish case is up here. But longer term, bearing in mind it's about to go ex-dividend, I think we'll retest this low. So on the weekly chart here, the 2016 low near $24. I think it'll just continue this downtrend and it'll retest those levels. Incitec Pivot looking pretty interesting. This is the last few years on a weekly chart. We can see the moves have been fairly impulsive. Sort of corrective move back, another impulsive move, corrective, impulsive move. What I've noticed is, firstly, so over the last few months we had a bit of consolidation here that it broke out of, came back sharply to retest that. And it's bounced back just as quickly, so that's a positive sign. All of this is happening under the 2015 high, so we may have seen the profit taking step in already, and given the bullishness of the recent 2 weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if we push through that 2015 high. Virgin, this is a weekly chart. Obviously this pattern here looks quite interesting where we've had this sort of spike up. We'll just zoom in a bit. So, in terms of just this part of the move here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks up. And that peak came in December last year. So since December last year, 11 months of selling, we've only been able to bring it back to where it started that 4-week rally. So obviously, big move up there, volume, a low volume easing back here. We can see the low volume. So overall, that looks bullish. It's got some obvious support around this sort of 20-cent mark that it seemed to have bounced off. So early signs that we might get a bit of a move. But ideally, we really need to see this sort of resistance break first. We really need to see a proper move up here to confirm that it's going to head up and not just continue drifting back. Because even though it's drifted back to support, and we've got a bit of a bounce, it could just be a bit of a short-term thing and it might just continue drifting. So we really need to see a proper move. Zaira, looking at the last couple of weeks, I mean, this has moved over 30% just in the last couple of weeks. Doesn't look like much on the chart, but it's staging a bit of a recovery here, which is quite interesting. I think there'll be some obvious resistance around this level. So moving back to a daily chart, that sort of 220-ish area is where we're going to see some resistance, but moving back to the weekly, it's good to see volume kicking in. So this is volume here. So volume really kicking in at the lows. So that's usually a sign of sort of weak hands giving up and serious buying stepping in. So I think as long as it clears the 220 mark, then we can get quite positive and we could see a fairly decent move. And finally, AMI, which is Aurelia Metals. Good uptrend to it. So moving to the daily chart, we can see the detail a bit better in terms of, impulsive moves up, corrective moves back, doing all the things we want to see. Sell off early October, like most stocks, but it's recovered pretty well. Looking at the daily chart, we could see a little bit of price rejection here, just under the old high. That's okay if it consolidates here. If it does, then it's a buying opportunity, should head to a new high. Otherwise, if we start to get some really ordinary trading days in the next few days, then I'd say we're going to head back to 60 cents, which would mean a larger sort of three-wave back here. But for the moment, worth keeping an eye on. As I said, if it just sort of tracks sideways here for a few days, positive sign and potentially worth going long for a trade. All right, well, that's it for this week. If you have a request, send it through and I'll try to cover it next week for you.